Okay, so we've all heard of global warming, but have you ever heard anyone relate global warming to hell? In this video, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to show you the connection between global warming and hell. Okay, in a nutshell, whenever the temperature gets hotter every single year, well, that's global warming. That's the earth warming up, the globe warming up. So, according to the Natural Resources Defense Council, global warming results from the increasing concentration of carbon dioxide or CO2 and other greenhouse gases that trap heat in the Earth's atmosphere. And this trapped energy, they told us at one point that it came from fossil fuels, but now they're saying this trapped energy comes from incoming solar radiation that's absorbed by the Earth's surface, and it goes back into the atmosphere as infrared energy. So it can't be both. Remember, solar is dealing with the sun. So they tell us it comes from fossil fuels. So basically, what they're saying in this article is that global warming comes from the increasing CO2 gas and other greenhouse gases that trap heat in the Earth's atmosphere. Now, they're telling you where it comes from. This trapped energy comes from incoming. So it's something that's coming to us. It's not something apparently on the Earth, which would then be the result of fossil fuels, but they're telling us it's incoming. It's coming in from the solar radiation, from the sun, and it gets absorbed back into the atmosphere as infrared energy. Now, this doesn't make sense to me. And the reason why is because they tell us that this CO2 gases and these other greenhouse gases are coming from the sun. But that's contradictory to what the sun does. So the sun is what helps keep us alive. When we go out into the sun, it has healing properties. It helps us produce vitamins and minerals, namely, one important vitamin is vitamin D. It has other very beneficial uses. So the sun also, it shines and helps with photosynthesis and all of that with plants so that they grow and we have plants and vegetables to eat, which help keep us alive. So now you're telling me that the very same sun that keeps us alive and animals is also causing radiation to come into the Earth's surface to kill us. That makes no sense. Sometimes you have to dissect what these scientists tell you because they'll tell you anything. Because, in my opinion, they're trying to cover something up. Now, they're telling us that the emission of fossil fuels also burns up, also creates carbon dioxide. But there's also something else that creates carbon dioxide. We do when we breathe out, but fire, when fire burns, it primarily emits carbon dioxide or CO2 as the main gas. And remember, CO2 is what's causing these greenhouse gases to be emitted, right? And this is causing the earth to heat up. This is what scientists are saying. So the Earth has been heating up. And since the Industrial Revolution, the global annual temperature has increased in total by a little more than 1 degree Celsius, or about 2 degrees Fahrenheit, between 1850, the year that accurate record keeping began. So this is the year that they decided to keep up with the increasing temperatures. And there was an 1850. That was the year that the accurate record keeping began. And then 1980, it rose on average by 0.07 degrees Celsius or 0.13 degrees Fahrenheit every 10 years since 1981. However, the rate of increase has more than doubled. For the last 40 years, we've seen the global annual temperature rise by 0.0 degrees Celsius or by 0.36 degrees Fahrenheit per decade. So the earth is getting hotter. But what's causing it to get hotter? Well, hopefully I can answer that question for you throughout the video. But the 10 most recent years are the warmest years on record. And the warmer it gets, the more probable it becomes that we trigger climate tipping points, such as glacier melts, that they transform natural systems into entirely different states and lead to more warming. In 2015, the Paris Agreement codified the recommendation of climate scientists to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So, what these scientists are trying to do is limit how hot the Earth becomes. So, they're working toward that goal, and they want to make sure they can control the temperature because it gives us the best chance to stave off the worst, more devastating effects of climate change. So they say that if they can control the temperature and stop Earth from heating up, it will help with the droughts, the wildfires, floods, typical storms, other disasters that are costing and affecting both our infrastructure and our health. Now, scientists tell us that our burning of fossil fuels, such as coal, oil, gasoline, and natural gas, has led to the greenhouse effect, right? But then they also say that incoming solar radiation from the sun also causes the earth to heat up. But anyway, in the United States, the largest source of greenhouse gases, they say, is transportation, and then it's electricity and industrial activity. That's what causes our greenhouse gases. So is it they have to be specific because to me it's not making sense. Is it transportation, industrial activity? Is it electricity production that's causing the greenhouse gases that are causing the earth to heat up? Or is it the sun and the solar radiation? But anyway, we know that scientists don't understand spiritual things. So everything has a spiritual and a physical component to it. Things happen spiritually before they happen physically. And a lot of these scientists do not understand the spiritual implication of things. And that's why we're going to talk more about that in this video. So they have to make sense of things that they don't understand, even though what they think in their mind may be the reason may not even make sense. But they want to convince you that this is just the way it is because these high elite scientists that have gone to Harvard and Yale and these prominent universities, they understand it in this way, so this must be true. But in their minds, it's because of fossil fuels or possibly solar radiation. And fossil fuels could possibly be a contributor of this global warming. But there are also other contributors of carbon dioxide in the environment. For example, fire also causes CO2 emissions in the environment. But where does this potential fire come from? Now, growing up when I was going to church, my grandfather was a preacher, and I had always been taught that hell has fire. So let's see. Matthew 13:42. And shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Matthew 25:41. Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. Jude 1:7. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication, also going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Matthew 5:22. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment, and whosoever shall say to his brother, Raca, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hell fire. So the Bible tells us that there's a fire in hell, but where is hell? So Matthew 12:40 says, For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man, Jesus, Yeshua, be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So why would Yeshua be in the earth? The Bible did not say on the earth in that verse, but it says in the earth. Well, after Yeshua died on the cross, he rose again after 3 days. 1 Corinthians 15:4. So where was Yeshua for those 3 days? Matthew 12:40 tells us that he was in the heart of the earth. And Ephesians 4:9 tells us that now that he ascended, was it because that he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth? So he was in the lower parts of the earth before he ascended and came back up. Yeshua descended into hell to remove those souls that had a relationship with the Father Yah, such as Abraham, Moses, David, the ones that were not yet in heaven, but they should have been there. But because Yeshua had not yet died for their sins, they couldn't go. But where were they? Okay, let me bring it back just a minute. Now remember, they did atonement in the Old Testament. They did atone, but they used animal blood. But the true atonement was done with the blood of Yeshua, the Son of the Most High. He is the one who gave eternal life, and through his death, once he died, he went to hell to retrieve those souls. They were not in eternal damnation or hellfire, but they were in what is known as, or what some Catholics would call, purgatory. Purgatory no longer exists, but it was a resting place. It was a place where they went to rest, waiting on Yeshua to come and get them and take them up to heaven. So I want you to remember the scripture of Lazarus and the rich man. If you don't know about it, let's talk about it. Now, there was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate, and Lazarus was full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked Lazarus' sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died. Lazarus died. He was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. It doesn't say he went to heaven. He was carried into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And in hell, he lifted up his eyes, the rich man, being in torments, and seeth Abraham far off, and Lazarus in his bosom. So if Lazarus is in his bosom, he's probably resting. But how is it that the rich man who's in hell can look and see Abraham and Lazarus? If they're in heaven, are they going to want to see people being tormented in hell? And in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham far off, and Lazarus in his bosom. But Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. So even though they were in hell, Lazarus was comforted, but the rich man was not. And he, meaning the rich man, cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. And beside all this, between us and you, this is what Abraham is telling him. His response is, beside all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from here to you cannot, neither can they pass to us, which would come from there. So there's a great gulf between the two of them. One is in torment, the other one is resting, but they're both in hell. Now, you could say that Abraham is not really in hell, he's in a resting place, but it's so close to hell that he could look over and see the rich man. Now, Catholics call it purgatory, a resting place between heaven and hell. But purgatory no longer exists. It quit existing when Jesus or Yeshua came and got them from that place, and he took them to heaven. Now hell only has weeping and gnashing of teeth. So hell is full of the lost souls. It no longer contains the souls of those waiting for Yeshua to die. Now, despite the fact that Abraham and the others that I mentioned, Moses, Aaron, David, they were in a form of hell because they all passed away before Yeshua was even born. So they were in a form of hell. They were not being tormented because they were not in the same hell that the sinners were in. They were resting. Remember when the Lord told Moses and Aaron that they were getting ready to die? Now, this is what the Father said in Deuteronomy 31:16 to Moses. He said, Moses, behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers. And then he mentions how the Hebrew Israelites would go whoring after other gods and they would break the covenant they have with him. But notice he said, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers. When you're asleep, you're resting. You're not being tormented. You're resting. You're in peace. So Moses was getting ready to go to this place of purgatory and wait on Yeshua to come. Numbers 20:25. The Lord is telling Moses, he says, get Aaron and his son Eleazar and take them up to Mount Horeb. Remove Aaron's garments and put them on his son, for Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will die there. So he's going to be gathered to his people. Where are his people? They're all gathered in one place. They're in hell. Some are in purgatory where they're resting, and some are being judged, but they're all in one place. Notice the Lord did not say Aaron will come to heaven, but he's saying he will be gathered to his people. He will die there. So he's physically going to be buried with his people, the other Hebrews that have already passed on, wherever they were at the time, because they were in the wilderness. And also, he's going to be gathered to his people spiritually in the same place. Remember, the Bible even tells us that Yeshua was in the heart of the earth. He had descended into the earth. Now, when the Bible mentions hell, it mentions being brought down into it. So we're currently up on the earth. We're up on it. But if someone were to die and go to hell, they would descend down into it. Ezekiel 31:16, I cast him down to hell with them that descend into the pit. Descend into the pit. So it mentions that God spared not the sinners, but he cast them down into hell. Now, the Bible tells us several things, that there is a such thing as hell. It has fire and is likely within the earth. So Isaiah 5:13-14 KJV. The Lord says, therefore my people are gone into captivity. He's talking about the Hebrew Israelites, because they have no knowledge and their honorable men are famished. So he's talking about the men. He said the men are famished. He did not mention the women. He did not mention the children, because the men are in charge. He says that his people are gone into captivity. He speaks about the men, and he says their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore, hell hath enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure. So she's opening her mouth and you can't even measure it, because she's enlarging herself. Why is she enlarging herself? Because people are descending down into her and she's getting bigger. And it also mentions she's full of fire, but she continues to open her mouth to receive those lost souls without measure. Okay, so just to reiterate a couple of things of what that verse just said. It said, therefore, hell hath enlarged herself and opened herself without measure. She's getting bigger. And to accommodate all the people that are going into her, as hell gets bigger, guess what? She likely produces more fire. As more fire is produced, guess what? There is likely more CO2 being produced. And as CO2 is being produced, even in the spiritual world, it's manifesting itself in the physical world, because the CO2 is being produced inside the earth. Now, scientists can say what they want, but all of these gases are building up inside the earth and on the earth. Yet they say that this solar radiation comes upon the earth to us through the sun and heats up the earth. And then they say fossil fuels heat up the earth. But it's not coming onto the earth. The sun has been here for no telling how long, and it's never been an issue. All of a sudden, it's an issue. The sun is not contradictory. It's not designed to kill you. If you belong on this earth, the sun is not supposed to kill you. It's supposed to keep you alive. That's how you know who's from here and who is not. So all of these gases are building up inside the earth and on the earth, not coming from another source. It's coming from the earth itself. The temperature is heating up. The earth is heating up, and we are feeling the temperature rising every year. Think about it. Are we experiencing the heating up of the earth only due to an increase in fossil fuels or the sun? Or is it because of the increase in CO2 that's coming from within the earth because of the fires that are within the earth? Well, that concludes my video. You decide on what you think. Like, share, and subscribe for more content.